Hey, Stellar Fam. Time for another look at the skies. For the next month, we've got a new moon coming up October 21st, 2025. Full moon, November 5th, 2025. And the cycle, like several of the cycles before, it looks intense. Tense. In fact, spoiler alert, we're going to ride calendar year 2025 out in intensity. This means intense world events and intense expressions of power, as well as opportunities to harness your own goals, your own motivations, take new risks, new steps, and make power moves of your own. As you'll soon see, this month features intensely interwoven skies. Everything is acting in symphony, very resonant. It's acting together. So it'll be more difficult to make educated guesses about specifics, but we can be sure that generally speaking, it will be intense. So without further introduction, let's take a look at the skies. This new moon happens in late Virgo, just past Alpha Virgo Spica, flanked by Venus in earlier Virgo, Mars and Mercury conjoined in Libra, and looking back around at the heavens, following the sun and moon, we see Jupiter just behind Venus in Gemini. We see Uranus in Taurus. Pisces is, as it has been, very activated. We have Eris and Ceres down in the kind of the no man's land between Cetus and Pisces. Cetus, the sea monster. Pisces, the two fish tied with a string. Pisces is also hosting Chiron, Neptune, Saturn, and that's all. So in Aquarius, we find the North Node. Just into Capricorn, we find Pluto. And the South Node, which I forgot to mention, sits in between Venus and Jupiter in late Leo. And this is the 2D chart of the heavens that we just examined, the new moon on October 21st. So we can look at this new moon as a sort of seed or a template, a blueprint for the whole cycle. It's like a natal chart for the lunar cycle, and it's expressing what wants to happen, what wants to emerge, the blueprint of what the month holds. We see, as mentioned, a new moon in Virgo, and it's doing some interesting things. It's making a grand cross to Jupiter, Pluto, and Eris and Chiron, who are conjoined by degree. They're in 0-degree relationship. It's also making a yod to, that's two inconjuncts or quincunx aspects to Neptune and Uranus. So let's just start there with this idea that the new moon is making only challenging aspects and only to the outer planets. It's really not talking to any of the inner planets at all. So one thing we can say about this month is it's likely to involve deeper, less conscious, more collective processes. It's likely to involve bigger. It's the first signature of many we'll see this report that involve kind of bigger flows of power. So when we look at Virgo, it's good to have a new moon in late Virgo. It marks the month with like analysis, a certain reason, a kind of clarity, and late Virgo is much less prone to the kind of like crisis energy that expresses in early Virgo. Later Virgo is much more infused with the energy of uplift, of improvement. It encourages balance and improvement as it moves towards Libra, and it really tends to counterbalance this very active Pisces. We see the ruler Mercury, and this is something I talked about last month too. Mercury, we don't really have a consensus on whether Mercury is the ruler of Virgo, but I see a lot of resonance. So I'm just going to go with the classic on that. There are other people with different ideas, and I'm open to those ideas. But when we see Mercury in this instance, and he's conjunct Mars, and they are in a pretty strong grand trine to Jupiter and Saturn, this pair here. This is another powerful signature. It makes everything active. It's going to infuse everything with dynamism. It's going to make this month edgy. That's a Mercury Mars function, and it brings all that edgy, active, dynamic energy. It brings it into contact. It brings it into resonance with power. Jupiter, Saturn in trine is a classic big power signature. So what we have here is power, and we'll talk about what kind of power and what we might see this month. But we have Jupiter and Saturn signifying power and power groups, and they are acting in tandem, in flow, in grand trine with the ruler of this new moon, and he's conjoined Mars. We talked about Venus last month in mundane astrology as symbolizing, women's issues, generally speaking. And when we look at Mars in mundane astrology, Mars seems to symbolize conflict, war, and aggression. And you could say that that's men's business, and I would say that there's a lot of relative and contextual argument that goes into that point of view. But if we look at the last 5,000 or 6,000 years and what men have generally been up to, we can draw a line between conflict, war, aggression, and kind of Martian enterprise in general. It also symbolizes the military, firefighters, and anything involving fire or metal, like industry, blacksmiths, fireworks. But it governs, explosions, violence, natural disasters. And only on a broader scale does Mars signify really like these things that we attach to him today in an attempt to kind of make nobler or more accessible this Martian archetype. We say it signifies courage, ambition, and the drive to overcome obstacles. It's reflected in its association with action and desire. This is the Mars we know. In another age, Mars may come to symbolize farming, exploration, invention. But in this age, it symbolizes conflict, war, and aggression. And that's going to be touching the collective experience this month via rulership from Mercury. So let's kind of break this down. I want to talk about the yod first. It's a little easier to tackle, right? With the yod and sun and moon connected to this sextile. It's sort of opposite the midpoint of a sextile. That's what a yod describes. And we have sun and moon now relating to Saturn, Neptune. I've gone over Saturn and Neptune in plenty of detail in recent videos. So I want to just note that Saturn and Neptune has a lot to do with the changing structure of world power, changing structure of power in the geopolitical arena. it sextiles Pluto, and Pluto is in the degree of fixed star Altair, signifying his return, his return position in United States astrology. So this is very resonant with United States. Actually, United States had a progressed new moon recently in secondary progressions. That progressed new moon happened right here where Neptune and Saturn are combining. So we see these changes and the changing structure of power centered in United States, affecting everyone, broadly via astrology. Also, kind of directly because the world reserve currency is US dollar. So things that affect United States economically, that's a Taurus function, going to affect the world. So here we have the collective consciousness, and it's sort of like not, this is tough because it makes the sextile act on the point at the head of the yod in such a way that it applies great pressure. So there could be a lot of pressure just about how surreal, right? How strange. Actually, surreal is a Neptune function. How surreal and how strange, how just unexpected this all was from a certain point of view, how bizarre and surreal, right? The changes, the world changes are. As I make this report, the United States has no functional government. So like things like that, like that's surreal. Like that's absolutely surreal. So, that's life in the modern world, and it is going to be bearing down on Sun and Moon, really giving us a lot to think about this month. So we have pressure, we have a sort of vacillation that emerges between these two. We want progress, we want, financial autonomy and independence, but it comes with this deconstructive urge to dissolve and deconstruct power, the existing structures of power. And then on top of this yod, giving Sun and Moon this really heightened emphasis, a lot of connection to these things, we also have this grand cross or a mystic cross. Another thing I've talked about somewhat recently, that it's the most potent, most powerful expression in astrology. The square is kind of the most like dynamic, explosive aspect when it comes to really producing results, getting anything like done or shown out of anything. It's more dynamic than the opposition. It's more active. It's more dynamic than the conjunction. It's powerful in an active way. A conjunction has always been focused on as the most potent alignment in astrology. But when it comes to expression and making waves, making noise, doing things, we see the square. And the square often has a little bit of problem, a little bit of over-under imbalance to solve. And when you solve it and unleash the potential in the square, there's a great deal of energy in a formation like this. And I'm just talking about, right, just one square, right? This is 4 squares and 2 oppositions. So let's break this down. This is the second or third powerful signature we've talked about, third powerful signature. We talked about the grand trine, and we talked about how interwoven everything is, how functioning together this month is. We can think about this grand cross as an Aries-Chiron opposite Sun and Moon, right? T squared by Jupiter and T squared by Pluto. And it's going to break down that way for a couple of reasons. The main reason is these are both 2 bodies conjunct, which gives extra power and extra emphasis to this alignment, this opposition. And the way these 2 act in square, Jupiter and Pluto, is going to serve to really really reinforce this division. It's going to polarize things along that axis, and it's going to intensify that polarization. So in Pisces, we have Eris. Eris is a force that's always challenging to understand. Eris, we can think of Eris a little bit as the primordial force of chaos in life, just a sort of substructural jitter built in, or some kind of jangly information in the system that gives rise to the unpredictable, the challenging, and the illuminating, the liberating. Eris wasn't the same as the ancient Greek creatrix chaos, who spawned Nyx and a bunch of old primordial gods directly from the fabric of their nothingness. That was chaos. Eris is actually more like a temporal kind of like graspable chaos, like actual chaos, not abstract conceptual chaos. And Chiron is likewise very, very associated with wounds and the journey to heal self and heal others. So this pair, when T-squared by Jupiter and Pluto, could reflect like a conflict with reality itself, or how we perceive it. I mean, in essence, there's little difference there's a little difference between those two things for the sake of this argument. And Jupiter hard angles, they expand. They're going to expand this chaotic wound, this in Pisces, this kind of like primordial pain of existence almost. I talked last month about the Mayan concept of the burden of time. And these Jupiter angles tend to emphasize overreach, expanse, too much of something. And it's usually a blessing in disguise, right? But we don't get that blessing until we retrospect. It's usually a thing that's like kind of blazes real bright and burns us out. But in the end, we discover there was good in it. It's a Jupiter process after all. Now, Jupiter is the only planet here involved in the grand trine and the grand cross. So that is major emphasis on Jupiter this month. And Jupiter's trines are really his best blessing aspect. Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Mercury grand trine. Like I said, it's gonna be inviting powerful groups to make powerful moves. So, I don't know, maybe we could just start to speculate, say that this month, it wouldn't surprise me to see policy declarations, right? To see power groups making bold declarations. It could be war, could easily be war. It could, on a personal level, be a time to make moves, express power. There could be on a personal level a connection here. And for people with activated bodies in Libra natally, this could be important. This is about power, focusing and acting. So this doesn't just apply to bankers and social elites. This applies very broadly to everybody, and we all have a chance this month to kind of harness these energies and act. Now, that's a little bit of a tangent from talking about how Jupiter is involved in Grand Cross and Grand Trine. So let's get back to that. Jupiter opposes Pluto, and that's really going to activate Pluto. And Pluto is going to polarize. That's what he does. He's going to polarize, and he's going to heighten breakdown between these systems in order to make room for new growth. That's Jupiter, new growth. So trust me, this is all happening together. It's very empowered. There's going to be very little to do about it from an outer point of view, but inwardly, what this symbolizes is an opportunity for breakthrough, for committed leap to the next plateau, to really summit and decisively. Let's look at this in a different way. This collective consciousness has an opportunity to confront, right? What's holding us back? What's holding us back from within Eris, right? The things we're hiding from ourselves, the pain of life, our grudge, right, against God or goddess or the universe or whatever this is, whatever this harsh survival environment that causes so much trauma so freely to all of us, without exception, whatever that is. We all have to come to terms with that. We all have to make our peace with the nature of this construct that we find ourselves in. This experience of this wound of existence, this is going to have to be reconciled this month if we want to make those inner strides. This is the task set before everyone on October 21st. So we can look at the dynamic between new moon and Eris Chiron as being polarized and heightened and taken to extremes. And we talked a little bit about looking at that constructively, seeing the strife and chaos and iconoclasm of Eris, symbolizing the journey towards overcoming self-sabotage, right? These are our blind spots. So in a way, she represents these unexamined, darker corners of the psyche and how we might internalize aggression from the outer world, how we might have internalized aggression from society or family, or how we may have internalized generational trauma and turned it against ourself, right? Eris is always resonant with self-sabotage, resonant with that scorpionic urge. So where we've been wounded by life and where we're holding that against ourselves, or where our pain has festered in the dark for long enough, this sets up a powerful blessing via the Jupiter square. So even if this experience is intense or extreme, it establishes a connection, right? Anything that happens this month is by virtue of the natural magnetism inherent in the architecture of the expression itself. It's bringing us all into contact. It establishes a connection between the collective consciousness and the primordial wound. Now, again, the moon isn't relating to the inner planets. So this may not be a journey that makes a lot of sense. This could be really more defined by darker sub and unconscious, very chthonic forces in the outer planets. Very bizarre and surreal processes that do not care. I emphasize this every chance I get. These planets, they don't care about your feelings. These planets that care about your feelings, they are disconnected from the conscious process this month. So be on guard. Be on guard. Forewarned is forearmed, fam. I said it would be intense, fam. So let's get into the waxing transits and take a look at this. All right. To move through this somewhat quickly, we're looking at the period of time between October 21st and November 5th. The waxing quarter moon will be on the 29th, and these are the waning transits. For the entirety of these transits, the sun will be in Virgo. And then at the time of the new moon, full moon, we'll see the sun shift into Libra. And this month kicks off with Sun square Pluto and Mercury trine Jupiter on the 24th, followed shortly by Mercury trine Saturn on the 25th. So here we have expressions of power. Pluto, power. Jupiter and Saturn together, power. We're gonna be able to say that at this time, there's gonna be power moving. The dynamic and moving qualities of Mercury and the expressive and radiant qualities of the Sun are going to be activated by power in our world. All kinds of power apply here, so don't think of it in terms of like just bankers or something. Think of it in terms of spiritual power, temporal power, and personal power. So all this applies. All this applies. Big, powerful time. A lot of powerful overtures, moves to be made. And then on the 28th, very early on the 28th, we see Mars trine Jupiter and Mercury trine Neptune on the 29th. Mars trine Saturn on the 29th. And this really starts to take us into the waxing quarter moon. So I'm going to stop there. We have, well, okay, so it's not quite fair to stop there because just for the time that the waxing quarter will be going on, we have 4 transits that'll be exact. Those are, again, Mars trine Jupiter, Mercury trine Neptune, Mars trine Saturn, and Mercury opposite Uranus. And that's crazy. That's a lot of power all lined up. So what we have is, again, the Jupiter-Saturn combination that just acted on Mercury, and now it's acting on Mars, right? So that is even, Mercury is very motion oriented, very active, very dynamic and expressive, but Mars is even more forcefully so. And to combine this all, we have this Mercury-Uranus opposition, symbolizing a lot of like radical thought, a lot of like new, outstanding thought, but a lot of like really different thought, like hard to understand thought. And this could also very easily symbolize unexpected things. It should symbolize the just things that come out of left field, big things. All right, so here is waxing quarter moon, October 29th. We see moon with Pluto in early Capricorn, not really doing much outside of making a perfect square to the sun at this time. So, yeah, we have at the same time, coming out of the new moon, immediately we enter into Mercury sextile Pluto on the 30th, that perfect. And late on the 29th, we have Saturn trine Jupiter, really Jupiter trine Saturn, and that is moving into 0 degree. Not sure when that perfects. And that brings us to the 2nd, when Jupiter square Eris goes exact. Also happening on the 2nd, Mercury trine Ceres, Venus square Jupiter, and Venus opposite Eris. So the 2nd is going to be a pretty busy day with some Venus transits, hard Venus transits that really make me think this is a day to be protective and nurturing and kind in our relationships, because what could come up are like Venus opposite Eris things. And those themes could include how we're doing damage maybe in our relationships unintentionally, maybe even the places we need to heal ourselves to be more available in a more genuine way in relationship. Could symbolize this, could just straight out symbolize like all out fight. Eris famously associated with civil war. So we have to be careful when Venus is opposing Eris on where we keep our hearts how we express those feelings, and we have to really mind our expression. On the 3rd, very near midnight on November 3rd, the full moon on November 5th approaches with like 3 Mars transits. We have Mars trine Neptune, Mars opposite Uranus, and Mars sextile Pluto. And we talked about the combo of Uranus and Neptune being surreal, being strange, being dreamy, being just like very 7 of Cups energy, very just bizarre, just bizarre and surreal. So here we have Mars, the force of Mars, of conquest and aggression in the world, in our own personal lives, of courage, of drive, of adventure. So this is a good time, this full moon. We'll be having a couple days to really wind up our intentions for the full moon, how we may want to express them. And that brings the full moon into focus. So let's switch now and take a look at this. Yeah, that looks good. This is the full moon, 5th of November. This is the opposition between sun and moon, and this is the high point in the cycle from an energetic point of view, from a pulse point of view. This is the boom. This is the heartbeat. This is where it kind of happens. So where that new moon expresses a kind of blueprint or template, this talks about how that will be expressed and emerge. All right. So we have the sun on the Libra Virgo cusp. We have the moon in Aries, right? Yeah, let's take a look at that. Let's just start there. There's so much happening here. I don't even really want to get into it. The very interesting thing about all this, as interwoven as it is, and as many planets are making as many relationships to as many other planets as they are, the sun and moon are not doing anything in relation to each other this month. Okay, so where the new moon indicated very deep, chthonic, weird processes that may be disconnected from the conscious mind or our feeling experience, the full moon expresses something that we could think of in terms of being inextricably affected by the chart holistically. Always. That's just always how this works. But really being a sort of process in and of itself, like a kind of standalone thing. So with that idea out of the way, I just want to jump in and we'll start with this axis and we'll kind of take it from there. We'll break things down from there. So we have the sun on the Virgo Libra cusp, and there's a couple interesting stars in this degree. Alpha Corona Borealis, the crown, and Alpha Crux, Acrux, and Alpheca, or Alpha Corona Borealis and Alpha Crux, and that's the cross and the crown. Those are the constellations of the cross and the crown. So it's a very Anglican degree, very Church of England, the first degree of Libra. And these Crux and Corona stars, they resonate with Libra because Libra's early lessons are lessons of balance, right? Balance and service, and really the cross and the crown are, ostensibly in service to people. That may be, contested. People could disagree with me on that. It's a very like Arthurian idea. It's very like Grail legend idea, but nonetheless, these noble ideas, have always influenced power and been important to power. So don't think that the cross and the crown is a horrible thing. I think it symbolized perfectly the service of early Virgo and the need for balance that early Libra represents. So we have first degree Libra. We have like very immature ideas of balance here. We have lessons to learn about balance, okay? And then late Virgo, we're like really totally as best poised as we'll ever be to be of service. So there's a desire here to be of service, but it's naturally it needs to learn Libra's balance. And the moon in Aries across from it in the degree of Alpha Cetus. So we have some alpha stars here too. Alpha Cetus, the beast. You'll remember it hangs out just south of Pisces, under Pisces in the sky. And Aries, under Pisces and Aries. The moon here is symbolizing adventure and exploration, new steps. Those are Aries prerogatives, and it resonates with the ego. Like the moon, Aries resonates with ego. So it's a very self-driven, like a very aspirational and a very desirous combo. And the axis to the sun sets up an energy of tension and dynamic energy. And full moons are famous for that, just increased, crazy energy where you have more arrests, more incidents, worse behavior, just, more kids playing hooky. Everything increases around full moons. So this dynamism, we know that full moons are famous for that. And the architecture of the Aries-Libra axis is one of I, thou, right? Or self and other. So we can see situations that reflect that emphasis and its learning curves this month. We can expect to see that. So where the new moon is directly connected to Eris and Chiron, initiating a process that may take us into darker parts of the consciousness, our own personal consciousness, also the collective consciousness. I just want to note now we have Venus opposing in that same degree, and she's making the yod that the new moon made. And we have the sun-moon axis having moved into Aries, concordant with the Mars emphasis on the new moon. One last note on moon I want to make is that, like I said, Alpha Cetus is activated, and Cetus and Pegasus, those are constellations directly below and directly above Pisces, are very activated. This month we have the moon, we have Ceres, Neptune, and Saturn, all in stars of Cetus or Pegasus. And we have Neptune on fixed star Alciat, or just Shiat, Beta Pegasus. It's 1 arc minute away at the time of this full moon from the ecliptic degree of Beta Pegasus, Shiat. And this is a star that's very famous for breakthrough and excellence. And that breakthrough and excellence comes with famous heartache and sorrow. This is what Shiad is known for. The kind of next level breakthrough that is heartbreaking. Yes, it can take a couple different manifestations that I'm not going to focus on in this video, like people who invent something but the world isn't ready for it. That often is marked by Shiad, or just difficult rites of passage, difficult passages. The ruler of the moon, we take a look at Mars as ruler of moon. Mars is in a kite to Jupiter and Saturn and opposite Uranus. So what we're seeing is that Mars continues this grand trine and has now moved really closely opposite to Uranus. We have a 0-degree relationship here. So, and this, interestingly, this degree where Mars is where the next new moon takes place. Okay, so pay attention to this degree. Mars and Uranus, they take risks. They do dangerous actions. They roll dice. They use unconventional tactics. They are not afraid of transgression. Mars Uranus is not afraid to take things too far, to light it up when other people would rather defuse. Mars also connects to Pluto here. Mars connects to Pluto by sextile. So we really have like a double kite at this time. Incredibly interwoven figure. It's a double kite with Uranus and Pluto at the heads, right? These are receiving the main energy. And Pluto and Uranus symbolize, as many of you know, change and transformation, respectively. So we can expect the unexpected, we can expect upheaval, we can expect processes, actions, and experiences that make room for new growth. We can think of this all as a turning of hard soil to make good soil, to make softer, fertile soil. And yeah, we have Venus, Yod. I mentioned now Venus is in this position that Sun was in. Venus now Yod to the wild power changes, and opposite to Aries-Chiron. It's really going to increase the emphasis that the new moon held. Now Venus is in that same degree, so. We have a resonance of confrontation. We have a resonance of intensity. We have a resonance of division and polarity. Remember that Venus is also in Grand Cross. And what we are confronting in this chart, what's described as being confronted, is ourselves. Our connection to the world, where we're deluding ourselves in self-sabotaging ways, where the universe has wounded us. Don't think Venus is all benign and appreciative here, but think of her in Grand Cross with Pluto, Jupiter, Aries-Chiron as engaging her warrior aspect. Think of Ishtar, Inanna as the morning star, okay, because she is, right? If this is the ascendant and we're moving around, Venus will rise before the sun. Venus is the morning star at this time. And that was a war omen. That signified Venus in her masculine, conquering, mess you up aspect, not the demure and toothless variety of Venusian archetype that we receive today. Mars in Grand Trine. Mars here with Jupiter and Saturn. Like I said, this is symbolic of power groups, especially financial, corporate, government, and this is symbolic of power groups. They're going to engage in risky behavior. Okay, and Venus in Grand Cross as the morning star, a war omen. This is going to get expanded by Jupiter, polarized by Pluto, and darkened by Aries-Chiron. It's actually an amazing signature for personal growth. We'll get to that. It could be because the rulers of Sun and Moon are so completely activated, and because the whole chart is so completely interwoven. It could be very powerful and vivid expression in the world this month. But it's also a great opportunity to make powerful expressions of your own in your life. And this month favors activity. It favors that Martian process. It favors processing energy, right? Thinking about things. It's a Virgo new moon. Using critical analysis as a tool to build bridges and to find balance between our needs and mission and the needs and missions of others, right? That's the self-other dynamic. That's I, thou. So we need to find that balance. Jupiter remains active in both Grand Trines and Grand Cross. Both Grand Trine and Grand Cross, singular. And as such, he really becomes about like higher religious philosophical themes. Um, although a Pluto opposition could really kind of distinctly separate Jupiter's temporal aspect of like worldly power and wealth from his spiritual aspect of insight and spiritual power. And as such, it becomes about the I thou relationship that we have with life, right? That's that Virgo new moon opposite Pisces. We're actually dealing with reality, with the spirit, right? With the God of your understanding, if you prefer that language. So this month will likely entail surviving more upheaval and change, as everything in this chart is linked to the outer planet formation. Like literally everything is linked to the outer planet formation. Yeah. The outer planet formation itself is expressing like 0 degree and 1 degree relationships. So it's very close. It's activated. Changing structure of power is what it represents. The changing structure of power, especially financial, right? Taurus, corporate and government. That's Capricorn, and even spiritual, or even really just like the power of reality itself to pull the rug, to change its face, to start a new phase, starting a new phase, folks. Everything this full moon is so powerfully interwoven. You know, it indicates intensity, it indicates dynamism, it indicates major activity in the world, and this means we can ride those waves on our inner journey. So this is a great month to manifest your personal adventure, Mars, your power, Pluto, in daring ways, Uranus, right? This is it. This is the Mars Uranus is one of the closest relationships in the chart, and Mars Pluto probably second closest, and Pluto Uranus at less than 1.5 degrees. So this intense formation really gives us a lot of springboard to do daring things, right? And as the Jupiter Saturn trine implies, this could be the expression of cautious optimism, right? Reserved growth, or as Mars opposite Uranus tends to express, it could be radical, risky, like bold revolutionary moves. So, some people who use astrology in their lives are active, engaged, involved with society, and then other people, they're not. They're kind of just like spiritual people watchers who tend to profess that there's nothing new under the sun. I'm one of those, and maybe even that life isn't as real as it seems, right? Uh, as the sages and scientists suggest. So if you're an active agent on the stage of like this geopolitical drama, get ready for action. Get ready, and if you're seeking the middle of the wheel as a vantage point to watch it all turn, get ready for a show that looks like it might test your ability to maintain any kind of noble apathy, apathia, neutrality, or a truly universal love for everyone, all beings. If you're on that path, if you're practicing in that way, attempting to reconcile your feelings with others, this month will offer you, I can predict this month will offer you the opportunity to confront, right? Here's that new moon and that Venus degree. Confront what you don't like about yourself and humanity. That's where we're going this month. So please observe the no smoking signs. Keep your head and hands inside the cart at all times and enjoy the ride. Okay, so here we are with the waning transits. And We're looking at the period of time on 5th November through period of time at the next new moon, 20th of November. And we have Mars sextiling Pluto. Is really the first aspect of the month, or of the 2-week period to go exact, on the 6th of November. And this usually indicates some kind of force or upheaval. Could be violence or conflict. Venus square Pluto is really, if you'll remember, this is really activating that grand cross. Although everything is activating everything else. Mars sextile Pluto activates, let's see, the whole outer formation of planets, because Pluto's connected to all of them. It activates United States and change and transformation and power machinations, secret movements, and all of that in resonant with US. So, Venus square Pluto, it's really hard. It gets harder and harder to make accurate statements. The more and more complex and everything and interwoven everything is. So I'd like to just make the simplest and maybe oversimplified statements that I can. And to that end, I just want to note that on the 7th and 8th, this Venus square Pluto and Mars trine series could be harsh days. This could activate difficult feelings, and we wind that down with Mercury and Jupiter both stationing retrograde. In fact, for a couple hours on the 10th of November, we'll have both planets retrograde. Maybe looks like we have 2.5 hours in that condition. On the 10th, and then on the 11th, Jupiter stations, that is exact. And then we have the waning quarter moon. So pretty mellow third week of this lunation. And I could say a lot about station retrograde, but it affects everybody differently. It's really gonna emphasize Jupiterian and Mercurial things. So on the 12th, Mercury conjoins Mars, and this favors reflexes, action, skill, sports, martial arts. It's going to stimulate commerce and conversation. And there could be a lot of reflection. It could indicate that a lot of happenings in the month are going to get reflected on in the light of Mercury and Jupiter retrograde, and then Mercury and Mars activated. Leads to a very active mind, a lot of stimulating conversation, dialogue, dialectic, argument, could be bold actions taken on the 12th. And then we get a little break. We get 13th, 14th, 15th off, and then it speeds up again. 16th and 17th, we have Mercury trine series. We also have Sun trine to Jupiter and Sun trine Saturn. So this is very special. This is a very special time when Sun is trine Jupiter and Saturn. This doesn't happen often or every year. It happens very rarely, actually. And these days look like really potent days. Look like very powerful expressions. So these are great days. So let's look at this. The 16th and 17th are absolutely great days to initiate new projects. Generally speaking, if you're starting something new, if you're initiating something new on the 16th or 17th, it will be infused great power. And this has to do with all kinds of power. It could be, again, financial power. It could be legal power. Both Saturn and Jupiter rule law. They rule law. It could be temporal. It could be spiritual power. Could be wealth power. It could be insight power. Jupiter and Saturn are very flexible. There's a lot of insight to Saturn, practical, pragmatic insight. And with Jupiter, it's like big visionary insight. But when both of them combine, the template for success is established, and the sun is in a grand trine with these powerful actors, making the 16th and 17th a perfect time to initiate any new project that you want to be infused with power. And then let's see, Mercury sextile Pluto. Mercury transits are so fast. You know, that Mercury sextile Pluto could be intense. It could increase this trade. It could increase communication. It could make things dynamic. But there's not, you know, it'll just be and gone on the 17th. So I don't even have anything to really say about that I want to separate out from just like the idea that is going to activate the whole basket. Any contact to Pluto is a contact to Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune right now. So this is just going to make mercurial, you know, bring to the mind, like make part of the conversation. These things. Following in short order and perfecting on the 19th, we have Mercury opposite Uranus and Mercury trine Neptune. The 19th will be weird. We talk about the combination of Neptune and Uranus as having the power to be strange, very unreal, surreal, very weird, just weird. And this also emphasizes sensitivity, psychic sensitivity, emotional sensitivity, also strange insight, flashes of genius and inspiration. Great day to meditate. Absolutely great day. And then when we get down to the last section here, we have Mercury going combust on the 20th as Sun conjunct Mercury, and the Sun comes into contact with Uranus and Neptune, which is all a lead-in to the next new moon, which we're going to check out right now. And I don't often hype like upcoming new moons, but this one is this one's nuts. We have 2 0-degree relationships, the Sun and Moon, which it's always 0 degree because it's a new moon. And then we have Uranus and Neptune. Their sextile perfects exactly as the Sun and Moon perfects, and all in grand trine. My friends, this will be weird. This is going to get extra strange. I don't know how, and I'm not going to try to opine or say or anything of the sort. I can guarantee you strangeness and intensity on this one. So that's what this month is winding down towards. That's what it's building towards, that kind of strange intensity that is just so hard to predict. So thank you friends for staying with this whole report or watching it in segments or fast forwarding to this part just to see what I would talk about. Yeah, bless you. Like, subscribe, YouTube. Yeah. What's worth mentioning? I would like to thank the International Sidereal Astrology Association and congratulate everyone. They had a worldwide event. That was their first. It went very well. It was a resounding success. It was excellent. I want to thank them for publishing my work and for promoting sidereal astrology in a genuinely meaningful way. Thank you. I've sort of mentioned like, I'm kind of working on a thing behind the scenes, a little podcast, and I'm still in pre-production with Franziska Arnett. We're still in pre-production. We're going to combine heliocentric and geocentric, and we're taking these deep, strange dives, and we really want to focus on explorations that are relevant to people that use astrology in their lives. We want to hand you the goods, and we have so much fun doing it, but it's still, there've been delays and problems. We're working behind the scenes to bring this forward, and keep your eye open because it's coming. It'll be here. Yeah, I made a video on the roots of tropical astrology. There's a link in the description to that, and it's just like a how did we get here? An exploration of how we got here. So it looks at history and context. If you're ever interested in like what the world was like when tropical emerged, like how did they get things so wrong? I can assure you it made a lot of sense at the time, but I can also assure you there are reasons to disregard it, and I outline that the whole context, the whole picture, and just kind of overview of that in a recent video. And as always, I'd like to promote Radical Astrology, a group on Facebook for people who use sidereal astrology, practitioners, people who use it in their lives, researchers, just private interested individuals. Everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome to Radical Astrology. Just do a search on Facebook. If you use that platform, it's a private group, so you have to search it out, Radical Astrology, or follow the link in the description and just answer like 2 questions to prove you're not a robot, and away we go. Oh, I think that's all, fam. In the interest of time, I will say thank you and goodbye, and keep your heads up. Yeah.